It's time for the show that engages with people of the combat sports world. And now, presenting the reigning, defending, undisputed combat sports show champion of the world, Flash Knockdown.
So we now enter 2018, a year that I would consider your breakthrough MMA year. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. That was a great year, man. That was a great year.
Yeah, great year. And your first fight in 2018 was versus Nathan Hughes. And a week after UFC Fight Night 127 in London, a card that featured your teammates, Stevie Ray and Danny Henry, and also Scotsman Paul Craig. Do you remember that show?
To be honest, man, I wasn't keeping tabs on that show. No, I never watched it. I've still never seen any of the fights because obviously I wasn't training with them guys at the time. But
no, I know.
I love to see Scottish guys do well, but I never really tuned in on that fight. On that show, I mean, and seen any of the guys compete. I think it was a great night for everybody that night, but I never tuned in on that.
Yeah. I think Danny won, Paul Craig won.
Is that when he choked out that Hakeem?
Via guillotine choke.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Stevie Ray lost a split decision.
Who was that against?
Cajun Johnson.
That's it.
Yeah, and that card was headlined by Vadum and Volkov.
Oh, nice.
It was a good card. It was a very good card. Yeah, very good card. So then back to the fight with Hughes. What did it feel like making the fight poster?
Good. That was a big fight for me, especially, and a big fight for Scotland. See, at the time, it was a massive domestic fight. Nathan Hughes was like myself. It's funny because right now Nathan Hughes is training with us. He's a really good friend of mine, like one of my best mates at the gym. It's funny that we fought, but at the time, obviously, we never liked each other. Well, not we never liked each other, but he was a young guy doing well on the sports show. Was that he was knocking guys out? I was knocking guys out. I thought we were eventually going to fight at one point. And obviously, I'd had my 3-loss streak, and then I'd had one fight, I'd won it, and I was matched against Nathan. I was like, this is a big fight, man. This is a good fight. And it's fights like that where you've got a great opponent, where it really lights that fire inside you, man. So I trained like fuck for that, man. I trained crazy amounts, man, and put the serious work in. And obviously went and had the fight. It was a great fight, good back and forth fight. And people sometimes say that is one of the best domestic fights in Scotland. Like me and Nathan went for it for 3 rounds, man. It was a great fight.
A key factor in that fight that I felt set the tone was your grappling. Early on, you managed to get in the underhooks, tossing him to the cage, and essentially controlling him from that point on. Could you feel the confidence and the belief draining out of him?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I was just a bit more physical than Nathan at the time. Nathan's a big guy. He's taller than me.
Yeah.
But I feel like I was more muscular strength, so I was more physical at the time. And you could say I started to wear them. Yeah, obviously, like I said, I was training hard for that fight. I was so motivated for that fight, so I put serious work in. And I knew I wasn't going to come in there and gas out. I was willing to go round after round and keep that pace up. And that's what I tried to do.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, in that particular fight, Mark, you looked like you were having a lot of fun. You were really loose and your timing was crisp.
Mm-hmm. That was a great fight. I hate to speak about it because me and Nathan are so close now. Like, he's one of my bros, you know what I mean? But we'll sit and chat about it in the gym and that. It was a great fight back and forth. Like, Nathan's solid. Like, Nathan will be smoking amateurs when he comes back. I'm telling you that right now. That guy is solid. Like, and one of my great teammates. So, but the fight we had, great fight. One of my best performances to date. And I think that's definitely because of Nathan. Yeah, I mean, because he's the opponent he is, because of how good he is, he brought the best out of me. So that's all I have to say about that. Like,
okay, fair enough. That's no problems at all. So at the end of the second rounds, it definitely seemed like he tapped. And if he did tap, do you put any blame on the referee for not seeing it due to the position he took up?
I'm sure he tapped. I'm sure that's why I let go. Or was it? Was it the end of the round actually?
And right at the end of the second round.
So I had the choke on. But I'm sure he tapped. But it's my job to not let go until the ref pulls me off. Yeah, I mean, so I need to take accountability for that. Yeah, I mean, so I can't be annoyed at the ref. I need to go back to my corner. I need to come back out and just do the same again. Yeah, I mean, it's I need to take accountability for that. I should have never let go of the sub. Yeah, that's what you're taught. Never let go until the ref pulls you off. Yeah, I mean, that's that kind of rookie era.
That was another lesson.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Yeah, that's what the amateurs are about.
Yeah, just building up experience, man.
That's
definitely.
it. That's it. Well, it didn't matter. You got the job done in the third and final rounds, claiming your second win in the space of a month. Did those 2 victories help to reaffirm your confidence?
Definitely. Just the win against Nathan alone. Like, Nathan was knocking guys out, man. He's a solid fighter. And then that's big domestic fight. And then going in and beating him, I was like, I'm back where I am. I'm the man. Yeah, I mean, I was feeling myself again. I was like, let's do this. Let's go for it. Let's go for a run. And let's see how far I can take this.
You took it very far. So, Mark, Cage Warriors Academy now comes calling. And they put you up against Marcus Lewis, my guest on episode 15, who is a decorated karate world champion. That was certainly set to be your biggest test in MMA. Would you also extend that to your combat sports career?
Just fighting that type of style. I'd never really fought that type of style before, so it was a big test at the time. But now I train with guys that are like that, so I'm a lot more used to it. But at the time, it was a big test. It was a big show. It wasn't really
massive.
The opponent. It was never the opponent. Like, I don't focus on the opponent. I never do. I was just being on Cage Warriors. The name Cage Warriors Academy, for me, that was a pivotal moment in my career. Getting down to Liverpool, they flew us. They took us down there. We were staying there. We fought in the Echo and stuff like that, in the auditorium in the Echo. That was definitely a big point in my career. So I definitely grasped that moment with both hands as well. That was a great experience, that going down to Liverpool and getting the win down there. I'd actually fought previous to that. So I had Nathan Hughes. I fought a couple of weeks after. I fought down in Portsmouth against Denny Sheehan, beat him, and then I fought Marcus. But I had all these fights booked. By the time I fought Nathan Hughes, I had all these fights booked. And at the time I was matched to fight Marcus Lewis, I think I was still 3-3 or something. So these guys are coming in. They've booked me thinking they're gonna bring him in. He's gonna lose, just so Marcus can get the title shot. That wasn't happening. No way, man. I knew what I was going down to Liverpool for, man. It was to get that gold, man. Go in, make a statement, prove to myself that I'm as good as I want to be and that I can be, and just getting in contention for the title.
Did that give you extra motivation, sort of believing that you were set up to be like the guy that Marcus was meant to beat?
Yeah, definitely. But just having the 3 fights booked, I was like, I never really thought much about any of the opponents ever. I was just so focused on myself. I knew I had 3 fights booked. Like, I had Nathan, I had Denny, and I had Marcus. But once they were booked, I did not kind of pay any attention to like the opponents. I just focused on myself, getting myself better, my strengths, and then going in, getting the win every time was great. But I then bringing me in as like a guy to get beat, that definitely motivated me. I was like, especially him he had some crowd, man. They were loud. When I got in there, man, they were screaming something like Mushin Kai.
Mushin Kai.
Like his karate team or something. So they were screaming that. I was like, and then my walkout song came on. I was like, fuck this. This guy's getting smoked. I could not give a fuck. So I'm walking it there. I'm feeling myself, man, and put on a show and silence the crowd. So silence the crowd, and it was a great night, man.
Yeah. Oh my God. All right. So I'm getting gas, boy. So the fight against Marcus was to decide who would face then champion and fellow Scotsman Kieran Connor for the Cage Warriors Northwest Academy lightweight title. How difficult was it not to look ahead to what would have been an exciting derby between you and Kieran?
I never knew, like, we never really knew if Kieran was going to win that fight. You know what I mean? So I just knew that I beat Marcus. I'm fighting for the title. I don't know if I'm fighting Kieran Connor or I'm fighting that Blanita, because they were fighting the same night as we were.
Yeah, after you.
So everyone that would be the then champion. So I wasn't really focused on who won the fight. Like, I know Kieran, obviously, he trains up in, I think it's Inverness or something. I know
Aberdeen.
At Aberdeen, aye. I knew of him. I knew he was a champ. I had no problems fighting him. But at the time, I wasn't really focused on him at all, or Benita, because I never knew who was going to win. And like I said, on my fights, I never ever focus on guys. I just focus on myself and what I can control. That's always been the case.
Right. Okay. And given that you did beat Marcus, can you explain why we didn't see you fight for what eventually turned out to be the vacant title?
I don't know, man. I think that's a lot of bullshit, to be honest. They were telling me they can't get me matched. Kieran Connor went pro, right? So apparently he
Correct.
went pro. Yeah,
There was a vacant title.
Benita or something, the guy that just lost, and let him fight for the title again. But the guys were like, we can't get you matched. We're going to keep trying. And it just fell through. Nothing ever happened. They never even gave us any names. And then a couple of months later, Marcus Lewis is fighting for the title. You want to know why? Like I'm saying, they brought me in to lose to him. They wanted him to get the title because he's Scouse, because he's for Liverpool. They wanted him to get it. You know what I mean? They never really wanted me to fight for it. I think that's how it is. So it leaves a better taste in my mouth with that as well, because I would love to be the Cage Warriors, is it Southwest champion or something? I'd love to be the Cage Warriors Academy champion. I'd love to have that belt. It's a nice belt and just an extra one to the collection. I feel like they definitely done me dirty on that one.
Yeah, it sounds that way because they're such a they're such a professional organization. You won that fight fair and square. You got the finish. You looked really, really impressive. And to not get your shot is it's very, very, very disappointing.
Yeah, it is, man. But it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Their loss, for sure. That's
right.
Their loss. That's a shame, man. So coming back to the fight with Marcus, Mark, early on in the fight, you got hit by a spectacular spinning head kick, which Marcus said he threw, not thinking it would land.
I wasn't actually expecting to land the kick. I just wanted to go near his face. I didn't expect him to foolishly step onto it, which is what he sort of did. Yeah, I was just at the perfect range. I was throwing it. If it hit him, cool. I wasn't like, I'm going to spin and kick him now. I was just throwing it to put it out there, like, look, lad, I'm here. My legs are active. We're ready to go. Just sort of a threat. And then it hit him. And I went, oh, shit, I've hit him.
But credit to you, Mark. You reacted very well by clinching up and backing him up against the cage. Was that to recover your senses, or was that all part of the game plan, or even both?
The spin heel kick was a peach, man. I was never ever stunned, though. I've watched that video back thousands of times because everyone was like, oh, well, you knocked it. I was like, nah. It's like he hit me on like the neck or something, and it literally just knocked me over. So if you watch, I mind like watching the video, slowing it down, replaying it. I get up faster than he does.
Correct.
He falls after he throws that kick. I get up faster than he does, and I'm ready to go again. He comes in, he smothered his strike, so he came in right away. I've just took the initiative and clinched up and worked from there. And I think that was kind of the process and the full fight. We'd both get in and we'd be striking, and one of us would just smother our strikes and would get into the clinch. I think it was never really a thought process, I'm going to try and clinch him here. It was just the sloppiness and like the greenness of us just getting into the clinch by smothering our strikes.
Right.
Not keeping the distance and just kind of falling into it. So, and then I worked for there. I'm happy to work for there and just obviously grind them out.
Yep, you did. So yeah, in the second round, it was pretty much, as you say, Mark, pretty much more of the same. Locking him up against the cage, landing several knees to the thigh, and shutting down his kicking ability, which is obviously his strongest assets. Was that also part of the game plan?
Nah, like I said, man, I would, if you watch the fight back, there was times I'm like, come on, let's go. I want to stand and I want to strike with you. Let's see.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, let's see what you've got.
Really? With Marcus?
I don't care what style you've got. I feel like my striking, man, is just next level. So you see, I'm throwing low kicks, we're striking. But like I said, the sloppiness, I feel like I'd throw a couple of strikes and I would just fall into I maybe get too close and fall into the clinch. And instead of just stopping the clinch, I would just work from there, get the body lock, stuff like that, try and get my drags. I'd obviously be able to snap him over and that. And I feel like there was sometimes, obviously amateur, you can't knee to the head. But if I could knee hit with the head, that would have been done way earlier. I actually mentioned that to him. I told him that in the fight. We were chatting in the fight.
No way. I didn't see that.
You'd be done.
No way
we're
you
chatting,
did.
man. If you see we're chatting and he actually speaks to the ref, because I'm like, I could knee you in the head, and I bring it up, and the ref's like that.
That's right.
It's
That's
actually
right.
the ref.
Yeah,
the referee
Neil.
that just passed away there.
Yeah.
That
God,
referee, man.
God
he was a
rest
great
his
ref.
soul. Yeah, Neil. Yeah, great referee. Yeah, unbelievable
Ref a
referee.
lot of
And
my fights, man. He was always a good and fair ref.
very fair ref. Yeah, he was. Yeah, unbelievable. I didn't realize you were both chatting in there, but I do remember the bit where he called over Neil and said, "Yeah, what was that about? Was that a low blow?"
I'm sure I said something like I could knee you to the head, and I think I just show the knee, and then he was like, "Oh," and then the referee comes over and is like, "No chance," because there's plenty of times where I cradled him over from the body lock, and I could have easily just ripped the knee into the head. There's actually there's a moment in the fight where we're in the clinch and I throw a knee to the head. Luckily, he brings his head up. I've just done obviously muscle memory, just instinct. I threw a knee at the middle and just missed him. Luckily, because I train knees to the head, so I've just threw it in the heat of the moment. Obviously, you can't be trying to knee people at the head in an amateur fight because you'll obviously get DQ'd. But I've just done it instinctually and nearly hit him. But I made sure I told him, I was like, if this was a real fight and I could knee at the head, you'd be done, man.
Whoa. Wow. Love this. I'm so glad I came up with these questions, man.